Hi, thank you so much, Dia, for the introduction and all of your support getting us set up. And welcome everyone to your last day of the Jungian conference. OMG, it went by so fast. So many cool things, so many cool events. We are we just went through the introductions. Is there anything else you want to say about who we are, what we're doing?
You were my psychodynamics professor at CIIS.
Oh my gosh, full circle. What year was that? We don't even know. But here we are. Here we are together getting to talk about like my favorite topics, pop culture, BDSM, yeah, Jungian concept, depth psychology, all of those things. What we're going to do in this short time that we have together is kind of look at these two films, Secretary and Babygirl, and just to see a show of hands, both digitally and also folks in the room, how many folks have seen Secretary? Okay. Formative. And how many folks have seen Babygirl? Came out last year. Show of hands. Babygirl with Nicole Kidman. Okay, good. I'm serving some Babygirl realness with what's his name? Harris Dickinson's like A-line and chain. And obviously Leonore is serving everything.
I'm representing the art form of sexualized office wear.
I love it so much. Oh my God. So we're going to look a little bit about complexes and archetypes and archetypal journeys within these films, but also more broadly, do a short art exercise. So if you have pen and paper, like around you, markers or color pencils, grab them. And then we're going to talk a little bit about consent violation in both of these movies, because they're not just joyful and amazing and fun things and explorations. There are also a lot of problems, and also more generally some of the transformative power of BDSM.
Great.
Oh, I forgot to ask also, let me see a show of hands. Who is working in the helping profession in some way? Who's in the group? Clinicians or, caseworker? Okay. Oh, lots of folks. Yay. Good. Okay, wonderful.
And just to check, can everyone see our slides?
You're good on online. Yes.
Okay, great.
Sweet. Okay, so just to we're not giving spoilers, okay? We're not doing that. We don't do that. But we want to just briefly say a little bit about each of these movies. A lot of y'all have seen them. If you haven't, Secretary 2002, iconic with a carrot, is a kinky fairy tale, right? And it's about this young woman who is self-harming. She engages in self-interest behavior. Maggie Gyllenhaal, and her boss, James Spader. And they begin a kinky relationship, and he has a kind of history of kinky relationships with his other secretaries, but this one is very special, and she stops her self-harming behaviors when they engage in kink, and over time kind of individuates and matures and all of that. I think there's problems, of course, so many problems, but one of them is her kind of dependence and reliance on him to be that substitute. And kind of the exploration of how that she does transform within herself, but how else could that be possible in her journey? And he feels a lot of shame in his kinkiness, and she doesn't. We were just talking about this a lot. Like
she has zero conflict about it. It's amazing.
She's like, oh, this world, got it. Yes, mine. But he has a lot of internal conflict around it, and engages through periods of like withholding and withdrawing, and then breadcrumbing her, and we're not going to spoil the end.
Yeah. Okay, and then Babygirl, obviously 2024. So this is featuring Rami, played by Nicole Kidman, who's a high-powered CEO who, despite being like very professionally and materially successful, is shown to be pretty unfulfilled. There's kind of like a hollowness to her life. And she's overscheduled, she's like overworked, and she's also unfulfilled sexually in her marriage with her husband, played by Antonio Banderas. She's shown to not be orgasmic. Of course, personally, one of the biggest areas of suspenses of disbelief to this film, in my opinion, is making us believe that Antonio Banderas does not know where the clitoris is, which I find a little hard to believe. However, she's struggling. She's struggling with power and control. And then she runs into this really enchanting intern who's a lot younger than her, Samuel, played by Harris Dickinson, who wears the attire that M is representing archetypally. And they start this kinky relationship in which he dominates her and she relinquishes control. This is the screenshot of their first encounter in the hotel room. She becomes orgasmic. It's very erotically gratifying for her. They have this ongoing affair, and then it all, builds to a confrontation, which we're not going to spoil.
And then just to briefly say, there's a lot of words on this slide. But to say that both of these films happen within, Jungian sort of complexes, right? Ideas, images, systems around of patriarchy. And so that's the complex of patriarchy serves both of these films, even though Babygirl has a sort of subverts the male gaze in that it has a female director and there's moments of subversion and moments of subversion of both the movies. It's still within the entertainment industry, and the film and entertainment industry is also, of course, under white supremacy and capitalism and patriarchy, to quote bell hooks. And so that's a complex there. And also it deals with elements of shadow. They both do animalistic kind of primal id things, dominant, ruler, and submissive, obviously a complex around self-injurious behavior. And that dominance and submission is really the part of the symbology. It's the visual. What is it that you said so beautifully?
That both of these films are doing a visual and symbolic exploration of female submission and male dominance, which is interesting because the power relationships IRL are different. Like Rami, Nicole Kidman, is the boss and Samuel is her employee, her intern. Whereas with the other couple, it's flipped. James Spader is the boss and Maggie Gyllenhaal is the employee. And yet, despite these like career and age differentials, both are women submitting to men.
Exactly.
So this whole thing is like exploring the eroticized relationships of patriarchy.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you. And so just to kind of name more of those roles that we see in both as like the tyrant and the supplicant, teacher student, the animal, like the master and animal. In Babygirl, he's treating her like a dog or a pet. And then we saw the horse with the carrot archetype in Secretary. And then a lot of paternal stuff, a lot of parent-child stuff.
Paternal and maternal in Babygirl. Yeah, but a lot of parent-child, like nurturance. Nurturance and discipline and rule setting. Yeah.
And so we're just going to briefly touch on what we've identified as kind of part of these archetypal journeys that are present in both movies. And these are the 5 aspects that we'll go over quickly: initiation, claiming, withholding, re-engagement, and transcendence.
So both of these films have these moments where the female characters are given like a milky beverage to drink. In Secretary, it's a cup of hot chocolate. It's so really fascinating. I feel like with Babygirl, there's a little bit more of like a semen thing going on when he orders her. Have people seen this scene in the film where he orders her a glass of milk to drink, and in this crowded bar across the room, she's surrounded by her colleagues and she does drink it. And this was based on an IRL experience by the female director.
Oh,
did you know that? Yeah, no, so a man did that for her.
Oh my god.
And she was like, it was one of the hottest things that ever happened to me. So that's why she built this whole film around portraying this moment.
Oh my god, I love that.
Yeah, and then in Secretary, there's this really charged conversation where ultimately he serves her this cup of hot chocolate, and then he really gets in her head and he asks her what's going on with the razors and the self-injury, and he tells her, "You're never going to cut yourself again." And she says, "Yes, sir." It's the first time she calls him sir. He takes a Polaroid of her to capture this moment of her becoming his. And then that's when like their DS relationship really starts.
Yeah. And that's another part of claiming, another moment of claiming. And do you want to speak about this?
So I mean, I think these happen cyclically and repetitively throughout the film. There's like multiple moments of claiming, but in Secretary, this is the scene where he spanks her for the first time. Like before that, they've been doing a lot of they do this game that is not negotiated or consensual or conscious, and therefore is problematic. But basically, James Spader is very like obsessive and perfectionistic, and Lee keeps baiting him by making mistakes, by like you know, kind of taunting him. And finally, you know, he freaks out about her typos and he calls her into, which she does intentionally. And he calls her into his office and spanks her. And it's this like really defining moment for them because it's the first time that they're actually making like physical, they're doing something physical. Right?
Yeah. And so and in Babygirl, it's this incredible scene, which if you haven't seen it, it's absolutely beautiful, where he's wearing this outfit with a blue hoodie, no big deal, and she comes to his hotel room, and is this in turmoil of like, do I, don't I? And when he makes her into the dog, then she is able to actually submit, and she's so torn about it the whole time. But when she fake orgasms with Antonio Banderas, again, not realistic, it's a very kind of high-pitched, almost like archetypally feminine way of
like girlish
coming. And here her orgasm is guttural. It's like it's animalistic, it's primal, and it's like he's unlocking some true a part of her that's been sublimated for so long. And at that moment, she, you know, has this beautiful emotional release, and
it's cathartic for her.
It's extremely cathartic.
It's cathartic. And I think she spurts too, because she's like, I'm gonna pee, and he makes her like power through it. And he forces her to keep going past her own defenses against intensity of the letting go, and then she finally lets go, and it's so cathartic.
It's so cathartic. And it's so cathartic for the viewer to see that vulnerability, in my opinion. And then that moves into this like, okay, so then here we are. Now we're in these dynamics, again, inherently problematic because of the power problems with work, but we're there, and it's so healing, cathartic, you know, important for
regressive.
Both of them. Yes, regressive. And so then there they are, so much like vulnerable puddles, and then it's taken away. So it's a withholding, right? It's like you want too much from me now. You're asking for too much, so I'm taking it away.
Both of these men are incredibly unreliable and inconsistent as doms. They alternate between being like present, attentive, focused, giving instructions, and then withdrawing, becoming like disappearing, and it's incredibly destabilizing for their female submissives. Like I think in Secretary, it's portrayed a little bit more like as a game, like kind of as a game that's happening in the relationship, even though it isn't consensual, where there is more of a tease and denial quality, I think, whereas in Babygirl, because it's a full-blown affair, it's just so, I mean, it's highly emotionally chaotic for both of these women.
Yes.
Yeah. It's really, and it's about stripping both of them down, as we see like with the Nicole Kidman scene in the hotel room, where she's physically, you know, he makes her strip naked.
When they re-engage again, that's sort of the punishment, almost, just like, you have to get completely naked for me, you have to go back all the way down. And so then there is a re-engagement. And then in Secretary, for those of you who've seen it, she's like, she tries everything. Please take me. Like, I want your attention so badly. And finally she's just like, fuck it, I'm sending him a worm. And she mails him a worm. And then, you know, he busts out the red marker, which, you know, is always about the corrections before. And he's correcting the worm. Obviously, that's a big problem. And that's his re-engagement. And then with Nicole Kidman, it's that scene where they're back in it. They're in a nicer hotel, a big hotel, and she becomes the pet again. Which is,
she drinks the cream out of the saucer on the floor again, going back into that pet energy, the milk. But yeah, it's like cycling through the protest behaviors of trying to recapture the male dominance attention, and then ultimately getting it, but in a way that's like, it's abusive too. It's abusive to both of them, I think.
And also hot. It's problematic. And then you know, again, not to give away the whole movies, but just to say that at the end of each movie, there is a level of internal transcendence for both of the female characters, despite problems, and kind of
resolution. There is resolution to some of their complexes. So for Rami, the CEO, we see that she is able to find a level of acceptance about her kinky side, her kinky desires, which she sees as very, you know, perverted and problematic, and she's in conflict with for the whole film. but ultimately she is in a confrontation. She stands up for herself and shows that she won't be shamed for that. And there is a resolution that also happens in her marriage with Antonio Banderas.
Yes. Yeah. And, and she's right. So Lee's taking her power back and making decisions about what she wants and, sticking to them to a point of her own detriment in some ways. Yeah. So there is resolve. And so just to introduce kind of some of these concepts, and then we'll invite you all to engage in a little bit of an activity around this. But to say that the symbology of a lot of the things we've been talking about have to do with initiation and the journey into this underworld, this BDSM underworld. And these things exist and other things, but these are some of the things we've talked about, the cycles, right? How they circle through again and again. Of course, it's on the realm of accessing the unconscious, myths and stories, the archetypes with which they find certain things, right? They find parts of themselves. They see themselves symbolically and relationally in these spaces. And that is all about the ability to potentially heal trauma. Not that we're saying that everybody who engages in kink has a trauma history, but and pretty much everyone has a trauma history. Anyway, it has the potential for that journey out of that trauma loop of
through the dramatization of these things within kink.
Right.
Yeah. And this is also exploring, all of these characters are exploring like exiled parts of themselves that live in the shadow. So the parts of themselves that hold these desires that are seen as deviant or unacceptable, the parts of them that they're ashamed of and that have been found unacceptable in other parts of their lives. Kink becomes like the playground in which they are embodying them and dramatizing them. And ultimately they do become integrated into their more like mature personas. That's in the end of these stories.
That's right. Yes. And so now there's an invitation that we have, and the invitation is to take about 5 to 7 minutes, and with a piece of paper or whatever you have in front of you, you don't have to show this to anyone. This is more about your own internal exploration, but to think about images, archetypes, maybe some of the things we've been talking about just now, but that come to you when you think about this underworld. So what are the symbols? What are the symbology that's there? And then just draw them out. Or if you can't think of, if images don't come, if words come, write the word
cloud. Yeah. And yep, no way to do it wrong. Abstract is great. We love stick figures.
Stick figures are welcome and encouraged.
Yeah. So we'll take about 5 to 7 minutes here.
Yeah.
And then we'll talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, everyone. Welcome back. I'm excited to hear what some of what you folks came up with or how it was to do it. Maybe I'll stop the share for a second so we can see folks a little bit more. Yeah.
Great. Okay, awesome. So we would love to do a little show and tell if you'd be willing to, for whoever's, in the room, in person, if you'd be willing to share, or anyone who's on Zoom, feel free to show us your video. You can raise your hand or just kind of come on. And this is a low pressure crowdsourcing of our collective archetypal view of the symbolic underworld.
And if you don't feel like you want to show what you drew, you can also just talk about the experience. Yeah, Marina, come in. Can you unmute?
Hi. I'm really not good in symbolically drawing, especially not on command, but they're just words that pop, and some of them are release, tears, pain, pleasure, authenticity, intensity, contraction, expansion, climax, love, exposure, shame, fear, freedom, healing.
Yeah,
beautiful.
Totally. Thank you so much.
Yeah, Nisha, come in.
Yeah, I'll just also share keywords that came up as a result of my drawing. I had Persephone, Hades, Dionysus, God, play, Psyche's knife, pomegranate seeds, liminality, and power.
Amazing. So mythic. Yeah, can you say the second one? Persephone?
Oh, Hades. Yeah.
80s. Yeah, totally.
I love
Totally.
pomegranate seeds.
The choice to stay in the underworld. Right. Of I'm going to both be in the above world, but also stay in the underworld. Absolutely. That's kind of really what's happening at the end of both films, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the decision to stay.
Yeah. Amazing. Anyone else want to share? Feel free to just unmute yourself and
I think we have one in the room actually. Ray?
Great.
Yeah.
Yes, we have one in the room. Yeah. You're good right there.
So
And just
anyway,
don't-
Right.
There,
could you hold it for me?
put it right there for you.
Okay,
There you go.
so I just drew essentially a Jewish star, and I put like there's an upward movement and a downward movement. And in the bottom, I put ego, dominance and submission. And then in the middle, I put small self, and then I put it moved up to self, transcendence, and integration. So anyway, I felt that I'm a psychologist, so most of my clients have lots of issues around domination and submission, particularly with parents and marriage partners. And so, you know, the work is somehow to work that through. And I'm admiring you for being willing to be out there. Most of my clients are very ashamed about even bringing up these topics, but after about the third year of therapy, they bring it up. So it's very unusual to have it brought up so suddenly.
yeah.
The one last thing I'd like to say is that so much of the Greek myths are about dominance and submission. Like, you know, like Zeus just doesn't, you know, give any respect to the women. You know, like he mates with a swan, you know, whatever. Okay.
Thank you so much. Yeah, always, yeah, there's always that, you know, the Greeks there's a big rape culture going on. Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for showing us that. I love that.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Great. Okay, great. Let's see. Alexander has his hand up. You want to go next?
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. I have some obvious things like chains, ropes, harnesses, bondage positions, but I have some less obvious things too. Roses, power dynamics, the relationship to like the inner animal instincts, like building a relationship to them and exploring relationships to trauma, which I didn't know how to draw.
Amazing. Thank you so
Those are
much.
great.
Yeah. I'm loving all the roses, archetypes, the pomegranates, a lot of underworld imagery there as well. Yeah.
I've been put on the Jumbotron, which I
I
guess
see
means I'm
you.
not. I drew a tarot card of what sort of came to mind in that, and the kind of the pentacle or the coin and the cup and the wand and the sword, and thinking about value, emotion, action, and wish. And the, you know, and the, I guess both in the consent of BDSM and also in the kind of psyche, but that which is subjugated is actually in control and has is the thing in control is what is subjugated.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yes.
Thanks for articulating that core like paradox of submission inside consensual BDSM. I think that's really like the mechanism through which the alchemical process happens. Yeah. Amazing. Okay, I think we could take one or two more if anyone wants to share.
These are so great, y'all. They really are.
It's so hard that this is just an hour. There's so much more.
I mean, I want days of this,
Yeah.
but okay.
I also drew a tarot card. I drew the Devil tarot card, though, just sort of entering that world of, you know, the spirit embedded in matter. Also, money exchanging hands as far as like power goes. Often there's value in both directions, and often money is very erotic. And then I also drew a circle of fire with a heart in it, and the word, the Jungian concept of tenemos, meaning that often these relationships are very contained and sort of alembic for transformation. and very secretive. You know, the secret part of it feeds into the eroticism as well. So those are things that came to my mind.
Amazing.
Gorgeous.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's so great. Incredible. All right. Okay, so I think we'll keep going, but as always, you know, we feel free to put things in the chat as we go along. Just bookmark them because we will make some more time for discussion too. It's so great to hear your voices. And I love how much it's clicking for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. I can feel the resonance, which makes me so happy.
Okay, so yeah, let's talk about consent here. So feel free to put in the chat or just unmute yourself. What do you see as some kind of problematic consent issues in this film? I have prepared a consent violation bingo for your enjoyment, which are, if we just want to say really clearly that as much as we love these films as cultural creations, if any of these if any of these characters were our clients, we would really be making some strong interventions in the therapy room. And we really want to put that out there. That as clinicians, we don't endorse this.
No.
And all of these things we'd really want to be drawing attention to and doing psychoeducation and really talking about boundaries and drawing an attention to the huge amount of coercion that's going on.
Exactly.
Yeah. So help us. Thank you for the bingo. Yes. I found my, I could only summarize my feelings of like, so you cheated on Antonio Banderas. There's a lot of consent violations going on in multiple ways. Yeah. And I'd love your thoughts here in the chat. But some things that I see are, obviously these are both films about workplace sexual harassment. Like maybe you shouldn't ask illegal questions about pregnancy during a job interview, like maybe that's not a great idea. These are also BDSM relationships that are never negotiated, or you don't even have like the frame, at least in Secretary, of it being a BDSM relationship. It's just happening.
Yep.
Hence the so he just jacked off and came on. Like, how do you feel about that? Or the bringing up safe words an hour into the film. Like maybe we should have talked about that and actually gotten some education first. Ultimately, is it really consent if they can ruin your career? There's just a huge amount of coercion going on contextually that makes this really problematic. There's a lot of relational consent violations going on too. For example, in Secretary, the triangulation with the coworker, with Nicole Kidman's second in command. Oh, sorry, in Babygirl, yeah, with the second in command. Yeah. And he also ingratiates himself with her family and gets into her life, which is not okay.
It's invasion, intrusion, it's a lot of problems.
There's no ethical container around the relationship. So she's so destroyed by finding out that, as I said, their illegal workplace tryst is not monogamous, which is was that a fair expectation to have? But the thing is, they never talked about it. Yeah. And ultimately, there's a lot of breaking of relationship agreements. Nicole Kidman has been sort of lying and faking orgasms with Antonio Banderas the whole time and not giving him the opportunity to really understand accurately what's going on in their relationship.
Yeah, and what she needs. I mean, what's being missed there? What she's kind of compartmentalizing and secrecy, where she's masturbating to porn. That's, I don't know, I can't remember if it's kinky or porn, but it's kinky porn. So she's having this split off part of herself that there's no opportunity to talk, be brought in, at least at that time.
And the inauthenticity inside their sexual relationship is very blindsiding to him as well.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And these are both relationships that kind of turn into 24/7 category, which is the most extreme version of power exchange, so it's all very problematic. And I don't clinically endorse any of this, nor do I endorse it as a BDSM practitioner.
Oh my God, I just saw Please Don't Show Up at My Family House. I just saw that one. Oh my God, it's so fucking good.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anyone think of any more that come to mind? Because a lot of folks have seen these movies. You can put them in the chat or just speak on them.
I just wanted to comment on Secretary, even though a lot of the stuff that happened in there was problematic, some good had come out of it. So for instance, she stops self-injuring herself because he's like, you're my property, you better not hurt yourself anymore, you know. So you could see how some good things could come out of it, but it could have been approached and handled way better than it was. So it was kind of interesting. And also there are issues of identity. Like she was a masochist. So she had another outlet for her masochism when she met him, and he was a sadist. And so he found an outlet for his sadism. And maybe even didn't even have language for what he was. So kind of interesting. And then I think it might be interesting for, I wonder if you could address the issue of the shame that he felt.
Totally. Yeah, so I fully agree and affirm that there were really good things that came out of this. I think for all for at least two submissives, and I think for Edward Gray as well.
Yeah,
very ambiguous Dickinson, but going back to that, like there are real resolutions that happen for these characters about their complexes. Lee finds a way to sublimate her self-injurious behavior into a much more like gratifying and I think safer exploration of her masochism, and she also stands up for herself, you know, with her in her enmeshed relationships like with her mom. Yeah, so there are totally good things that happen for all of these characters, and I think we're really holding that that both and of there was both like the messiness, the consent violations, like the abusive things that happened, and also the ways that these really helped these characters to transcend things and transform them within themselves. And I do want to say ultimately that as much as I'm taking a stand here for the ethical practice of BDSM, I also do affirm that in real life too, these things can be very messy, and that our frameworks of consent and ethical practice, I think, are really important to study and internalize and try to uphold. And also that IRL, these journeys can be very complex, and things are rarely solely good or solely bad. And that's something I see a lot in, certainly in community, in working with clients, and even in my own journey around these topics. Beautiful. Okay, so maybe let's look at what consent can look like, and then we'll have time for questions. So just wanted to put this out there around like what are some parameters of consent that we could consider, and this I think is a framework that also highlights the problematic nature of these films. So this is an acronym created by Planned Parenthood. FRI is talking about how ideally we want to explore consent as something that's free and freely given. And in both of these films, the context of the employment and the professional relationship, the professional future, the finances, all of that depending on, you know, a boss's goodwill, I do think really means that consent can't fully be freely given because the situational context isn't conducive for freely giving consent. We also want it to be reversible, as in it can be revoked without penalty or to oneself. We want it to be informed, so as you actually like know what you are signing up for.
Whoops, he came on your back. Like, no, you didn't sign up for that.
Like when he told you to lean over his desk, like you didn't know it was going to happen, and because you'd never talked about any of this, and that felt really dangerous.
And scary. And I will add in there, it's in being informed about what is happening, and also I think a kind of self-knowledge of what is it that I want, and something like that I help clients get in touch with a lot is like, what is it that you want, especially like folks who are like socialized as female, like what are your desires, what are your boundaries, like what is your self-informed, what is your informed self around approaching this, and then also are you informed about, does everyone know what's going on, what is the agreement?
That makes me think about a line from Carol, which is the film we could also do another workshop on, but where Rooney Mara says, I don't know what I want, so I just say yes to everything. Which is so relatable. And then we want the consent also to be enthusiastic, so not just saying like yes. There's a line from a Cuddle Party actually that says if it's not a yes, it's a maybe, and if it's a maybe, like treat it as a no. And lastly, we want it to be specific, so we want to be clear about like what the, you know, being like, I want to dominate you, okay. Like that's not specific.
What does that mean?
What does that mean?
Mhm.
Like I want to be able to like verbally degrade you when you make typo errors in my letters, and then I'll discipline you by spanking you. That would be specific.
Mhm.
Like we could negotiate that as a specific part of our dynamic.
And that there can still be within that element of surprise, an element of, creativity and authenticity. So it actually having the specificity and having the parameters creates more spaciousness for that, because then these structural things are there, and then you can play within that and expand.
And I think also in BDSM, there's these wonderful opportunities to negotiate not only the specific activities, but also the dynamics. Like, for example, you could negotiate specifically, like, I want you to dominate me, but in a romantic and cherishing way, not in like an insulting and degrading way. And ideally, you would be able to also have aftercare. I mean, there was no aftercare hardly in any of these. There was, but it wasn't like very conscious, there would be aftercare, and then there would also be the chance to like debrief and talk about like, how was that for you?
What worked,
what didn't work. And really both people should be able to do that, because doms need aftercare too.
Yeah, exactly. How do we feel about our safe words? Like all of those things.
Yeah. So
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
A model that would have been really, like, I wonder what Secretary and Babygirl would have been like in this realm.
Or if, they had therapists who had kind of sat down and be like, okay, so I hear it. Like, I love that, it's clearly this is really helping you. And also like, maybe let's consider, let's go through this acronym and talk about like, are these things happening?
Let's eat fries together and talk about fries.
Yeah.
That's exactly right. I mean, it's definitely our ethical responsibility to do that. And then just to say, like, to wrap up and say more broadly, I'm sorry, were you finished with that piece? Okay. To say more broadly, like, again, I think a lot of us here are in, but it is such a place to explore safety and trust and power and control and pleasure and all the things we've been talking about and that you drew about and that you imagined. It has such a potential for trauma healing and integration. And then it's about also like reclaiming narratives, empowerment, going through a repetition compulsion in a healthy, consensual environment. And then, exploring the archetypal, the unconscious levels of things, shadow stuff. And more generally, my favorite thing is pop culture brings opportunities for healing clinically. So, always listening for like, what are your clients or the folks that you're working with? What are they reading? What are they listening to? What are they watching? And more generally, how can you use some of those archetypal things to bring them in if it feels right, if it feels appropriate for your client, to make connections, to see the symbolic mirroring, to go into some of those imaginal spaces. And I think Secretary and Babygirl are examples of how we do that, because I think they're probably one of the most common, famous, mainstream-ish, even though Secretary was more, but a lot of people have seen it. It's become more culty, cult classic-y, which is great, but they're the mainstream representations of this. So I think us understanding them, if we're working with folks in kink at all, is important. Like, we should see these movies. It should be like part of our MFT training. To see these movies, to be able to talk about them in this way, as clients will bring them in as reference points. I mean, totally. In my humble opinion.
Totally. Yay.
Do you want to add anything to this?
No, I think that's it. I think that's it. But let's make sure we make some time for discussion.
Yeah, let's talk. There's so much more to say. Years and years. Questions, comments, thoughts?
We do have a few questions from the room. Is that okay? Okay.
Yeah. This is just fantastic. I thank you both, and the dynamic between you two is also just like so delightful. I wish I could go hang out in that cute little cabin and chat with you guys the rest of the afternoon. I did have a question about, in thinking about the consent violation bingo and what you had named before about that with withdrawing and withholding as being really emotionally chaotic and not consensual on the part of the submissive. I haven't seen Babygirl, but in Secretary, I know I can think about where that sort of showed up. And just sort of trying to think about it as that overlaid with people trying to work through their avoidant or anxious sort of attachments, right? And like how to navigate, or if you could just sort of speak to like those things sort of at the same time, right? Like how to make space for somebody to process through their avoidant attachment in a dominant position without that being emotionally chaotic. Or I don't know if this question is making sense. I have a client who came in being like, we were going to start a 24/7 kink dynamic like next week. And I was like, why don't we slow that down and work through this a little bit more before that? Anyway, so that's where I'm thinking about that from.
Yeah, I have some thoughts.
Yes, go. Yeah.
I think the problematic nature in both of these films really stemmed from it becoming a 24/7 dynamic without any like negotiation or conversation. And I think the 24/7 nature of that is key to explore. So I love that you just brought that up, because there was no meta conversation that they could come back to like express what they really needed and to negotiate change. Like I think it's extremely common for doms to feel drained, especially in 24/7 dynamics, because it's very energy expensive to hold that level of authority and frame for someone constantly. And I think there needs to be the possibility to step out of role, a clean way to step out of role and talk about what's happening. And I think, yeah, in the overlay, I don't know that I have like a solution I want to hear your thoughts on like the anxious attachment loops that were happening.
Yeah.
But I think the culture of BDSM ideally creates buy-in for both people of having structured check-ins and these kinds of negotiations, like as a good thing. Like even, that's not to say it's easy to do, but I think the culture of ethical BDSM at least normalizes this as something that is good to happen and supports it.
Which is true for every relation. I mean, that's a model for every relationship. What if every relationship, with or without any shade of kink or whatever, would do that, would have that structure of checking in and getting consent for things?
Yeah.
That's a great world I want to live in. I think that when we're talking about withholding, well, first of all, again, the withholding in the movies are happening not in a consensual framework. So that's that. But if they were, I think it could be rich opportunities for clients to explore their relationship to attachment wounding and to go deeper into that and to feel out when you're in the anxious space, like what does self-soothing look like and how do you do that, almost like pouring that energy back into yourself even though it's really uncomfortable.
There needs to be a way to build inner security.
Exactly.
And to not rely on the other person inside the dynamic as the compensatory figure.
Exactly.
So I think there would need to be just like a ton of work around like building inner security and that kind of object relations work, which could that happen at a speed that would allow people to sustain the intensity of the DS tease and denial and the attachment. I mean, it's just incredibly high octane material, I think, which is why there would also have to be a lot of work around really slowing it down.
And really building a lot of trust and foundation before going
into the dynamics.
You have to do it.
Yeah.
Right. So that, even if it brings up attachment wounding from the past, if there is more of a relational sense of trust and safety within the people, I think that could offset it. And there could be a lot of potential for healing and growth and transformation there, including also with a person who's exploring more of an avoidant space, because again, if it's consensual and everyone understands what's going on, then you're talking about it.
Yeah.
Then you're like, well, what happens for you when you disappear? What is happening there? I'm sorry. Yes.
I'm seeing we could go on for so long.
Yeah,
I see there are a few questions. So let's go to the gentleman who's holding the person who's holding the mic, and then we'll go to each.
Yeah. So my name is Elliot. I have first a joke and then a question. My joke is that one way I express dominance in my life is by becoming a perfect speller, and you spelled one word wrong. So it made me very excited. You spelled the word reversible wrong. You spelled it with an A and it's actually an I. So anyway, but that was, but
I'm glad we could give you that gratification.
okay. So, but then I did have a question about reversible. So, I mean, is it necessary that, let's say, the roles between dominance and submission, that they be exchanged, that whoever is submissive become dominant, whoever's dominant become submissive? And is that, have you ever tried that? Is that generally advisable? Or, I mean, is it a challenge, or first, what do you exactly do you mean by reversible?
Yeah.
And
Sure.
so that's my question.
They actually, the better word, and I think this actually might be part of the FRIES acronym, would be revocable. So the consent can be revoked without
I see.
What you're talking about is called switching, as in switching between dominant and submissive roles, which some people definitely do and some do not. And I think that's really more of a matter of personal preference.
Right.
Yeah.
Great clarification.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank-
Okay, let's go to Nisha.
Yeah, great presentation. I really enjoyed this. I'm wondering about on your final slide, you talked about repetition compulsion in a healthy consensual environment. And I'm curious if you could elaborate on that. And I'll just give an example. As a clinician, thinking about, say, a client who has had a history of relational masochism, more as an energy. So masochism as an energy across their relationship histories, and perhaps is now exploring it in sex for the first time. Like, would you say that energy is being, like, the potential for that is being sublimated into the bedroom, which would make it kind of healthier? Yeah, I'm just curious about this repetition compulsion in a healthy consensual environment with kink.
Yeah, I mean, I think if it's channeled, if it's intentionally and consensually channeled into a relational space, a sexual space, or whatever, an energy exchange space, and it's coming from wisdom, knowledge, empowerment, I think it has the potential for healing and transformation and integration. So it's doing it again, but this time with more understanding and more knowledge, and in a contained, framed way. Those are my thoughts. Yeah. I mean, I think that's the thing about it, is it's a lot of times the repetition compulsion is unconscious. And even when you're like, oh, I get it, I'm doing I'm a licensed clinician, I get it, I'm repetition, I'm not doing that again. Whoops, did that thing again. It just comes in. And so the more that you can understand it, build on it, and then, like we all do, right, and try to get a different outcome. The different outcome this time is that you're in the driver's seat and understanding it and integrating it for yourself, as opposed to just accidentally, unconsciously letting it happen, or not letting it happen, and then it happens anyway. So it has the potential to move, is how I see it.
Yeah, I mean, I think, psychodynamically, we're definitely coming from the assumption that repetition compulsion is inevitable, and also integral to our development. Like, we repeat things in an attempt to find mastery over them, or to find an integration of them. And we're offering some possibilities that BDSM can be used consciously for that integration.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Great. Well, I see we're coming to the end here. So I just want to mention that, happy to take any last questions, but just want to mention a way to stay connected after this. Both Em and I are clinicians who work a lot around this. We work with our clients on these topics. We consult with other clinicians, and we're both continuing to write and develop our own thinking and body work around this. So if you want to stay in touch about that, we have a little mailing list link that we're dropping into the chat. For folks in the in-person room, it's tinyurl.com/jungbdsm.
It's a great URL.
It's just a little Google form I put together. So if you want to keep in touch and get some of the resources that we develop around this, that would be a simple way to do that.
You have one final question.
And we had a quick comment in the chat. Truly, what is lacking in heteronormative vanilla relationship norms is the expectation of the need for communication and negotiation.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you both so much. This has been so fun. Could definitely talk to you all day. And I have a question that I suppose I could have asked any of the presenters in this conference, but I'd like to ask you because you're both so very approachable, and your talk has given me the impression that there's like a sort of nesting of like complexes within complexes, right? Like these films both present like the complex of BDSM, in the complex of patriarchy, in the complex of the workplace. And so I guess my question quite simply is like, how would you explain to someone who has no education in Jung theory at all, how could you very quickly or succinctly define what a complex is from a Jungian perspective? And then my second question is, how do I join the Twin Peaks tattoo community officially? Because I have one.
Oh my gosh. Okay, well, we have to talk immediately. Yeah. Please email me at the Twin Peaks Tattoo Podcast. Oh my gosh. What is your tattoo?
Keyhole. Sorry. It's a keyhole of the dream room, the red curtain and the floor.
You got chevron floor too. Oh my
Amazing.
goddess. That looks
That's so
good.
great.
Oh, love it. Okay, let's talk, please. I want yes, let's do it. That is fabulous. I would say kind of what I said, I think before, please add on, and anybody else, please add on. But I would say like images, ideas, themes, and systems that all revolve around the thing that we're talking about. So that are, you know, that like the things that symbolize, you know, in a system.
Yeah, I guess I'd say it's like the matrix that's formed by relationships, symbols, themes, like everything that you just said. Yeah. Around the thing that's both like experienced subjectively inside us, but also collectively accessed. I think that's important because I can have a complex inside me. I definitely have some complexes inside me, but there's also complexes that we're interacting within.
Yes.
Relationships occur
relationally.
inside complexes as well.
Yeah. And like archetypally understanding some of the famous ones or whatever, Donovan or whatever.
Yeah. Thank you.
This is so fun.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.